Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Elementary, a great episode. In this episode, we deal with the victim being a therapist named Candace Reed, who turns out actually be Watson's therapist, which I'd completely forgotten about. I was like, what? Watson went to therapy? I was like, when was that? Apparently it was back when she was a sober companion, and it's like, 5 years ago. So it's like, so season one. So like, of course, it's been that long. I completely forgot that was a thing, which is kind of interesting. But basically, it seems like it's a brutal death, and there's like so many different people connected to it. I even love the fact that Sherlock stole her therapist files, well, backup ones, and even like Watson was like, "You can't do. What are you doing? That's super illegal. You know how much trouble we can get in." I was like, "Well, trouble less. It's less trouble than murder and stuff like that, which is what we're trying to solve." And then he's looking through some files and stuff. He's like, "Oh, this is interesting." So, what is it? And she's like, "Let me see." And he's like, "Oh, you sure? I mean, you got me really thinking about like the consequences of what I'm doing." She just snatches him. I'm like, "I love that you're being so cheeky. I love it." I even love the fact is that Joan was trying to put it back as like, okay, this way, no one knows that we still, cause I do forget from time to time that they do skirt the line between what's legal and illegal. That has gotten them into trouble in the past before, hasn't it? I could have sworn. I know there was something else. There's a different show that kind of had that situation where it's like, someone who kind of goes outside of the lines kind of screws over the team. But this is one of those instances. I don't know if it's come back to bite them in the ass, and like, maybe it has. I don't know. I mean, if it had, I feel like they'd be a lot less about it, So I don't know. I'm trying to remember over the course of the series. Not that I remember, but like I said, a lot of that stuff kind of ends up fading from my memory. So maybe it has come up in the past. If it has, let me know. I don't remember the exact circumstances if it has potentially come up. But nevertheless, I end up finding out there's a listening device, and it plays a big part in the episode because even Joan was freaking out about it. She's like, literally, someone could have heard us talking about the fact that we stole evidence from a crime scene, and it's just kind of like, and the dude behind it is the dude who runs the building, who owns the building. He's the one that was trying to like blackmail. He's kind of like, oh yeah, but if I did particularly have this recording, it'd probably be me with information about two investigators admitting that they stole evidence. So it's kind of like, we kind of walk away from this because it's mutual destruction, which I like Sherlock, but I'm gonna counter that, but the fact is, you say mutual destruction, sure, we'll both kind of get screwed over, but one of us will get screwed over a lot harder. You have a lot of people you would have to answer to about doing what you did. Us, we're just kind of on the lower end of things. We're just consultants, so we won't have like corporations and investors kind of breathing down our necks about it. So I was like, that's good. So it seems like they never had to tell anyone, even Gregson. They were threatening to go ahead and tell Gregson, but it's like, that would have been a little slippery slope. But it's like, it looks like luckily they don't have to say anything. So I'm wondering, will they be careful from now on? I'm like, it's kind of an outlier situation. So I was like, who cares? Man, I like to think they're going to be a lot more careful from now on. It's like, I guess from now on, every time they do something like that, it's like, we got to be careful and make sure that there's no recording devices anywhere, any bugs or anywhere before we do stuff like that again or something. Or at the very least, if we commit a crime, let's not openly talk about it unless we're somewhere that we're 100% sure is safe type of thing. So but like I said, there's so many different suspects, and one of them ends up being Candace's partner, because it seems like the dude that she was talking to, one of her patients was Alpha, which I loved. I almost forgot about her other patients. There's the one dude that had about the whole thing with the shoe. It's like, yeah, there's this one dude who has it, like her husband was talking about, yeah, this dude with this whole thing with shoe, in particular objects, but a shoe he likes to have sex with. And Belle just kind of goes, ugh, and kind of looks towards Joan, and Joan's like, it wasn't me. It's like, what? I love that she had that remark. She didn't even have to say that. That was good. But it comes up later on because Sherlock's like, yeah, I don't think there's any wrong with this dude. I'm on the side of this dude. He can have sex with as many shoes as he wants to because he's not hurting anyone. So, and you must have Joan rolling her eyes. It's like, God, this is the second time I've had to hear about the shoe guy. But nevertheless, the main dude in this, Alphonse, I love the fact is that Joan and Sherlock are having their own conversation about the file. Because one of the files that he had was about Joan, because it's the one that Candace had written like back when Joan was her therapist all those years ago, and she's like, I remember it's like, you didn't read my file. He's like, yeah, I want to respect your privacy. Oh yeah, but you didn't want to respect everyone else's. Like, well, yeah, because I know you're not the murderer, so of course I'm not going to like need to check your file. But it's like, obviously, Joan, you want to look at it. She's like, no, I don't. It's just whatever Dr. Reed had to say. It was like, that was her business, and it's not mine to know. Which obviously I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. I love that they're having this whole conversation and stuff like that, and the dude is, I was like, that dude's gonna jump, isn't he? And I thought, I didn't expect it to be a situation. They literally had their backs turned to him. He jumps, and they're just having a casual conversation. It's like literally as Sherlock is saying, like, "Oh yeah, you never know what people can do." He's jumping behind him. I was like, "That, wow, that was interesting." So he was just very hurt because he had this whole like obsessive attachment to Reed. Turns out that her partner, Demopolis, is the killer behind all of this because, in fact, because Alphonse has a tendency to run his mouth about business stuff, so he can kind of give you kind of like information about what to do, kind of make you a lot of money type of thing. And he ran his mouth about that, and Demopolis was like, no, 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 I want you to be my cash cow type of situation. I want you to give me the tips and tricks and how to, and that's why he killed Candace. All for that. He covered it up to make it look like it was some just like, someone who just like enraged and stuff like that. The fact of the matter is they confronted him earlier and he was just kind of like, oh, how dare you treat me like I'm a killer and stuff like that. And it's like, It's always interesting when they deny it like face front like that. And it turns out, oh yeah, you were just very good at lying, weren't you? I mean, not that convincing. I mean, the fact is everyone kind of had their doubts about you anyway, but still. Even though they kind of put on this little performance, it's like, yeah, act like we told you some stuff and you're kind of looking a little disparaged and stuff like that. So that was kind of interesting. Sherlock say, I might not know the stuff that you know, but I'm very good at getting inside a criminal's mind, so I know exactly how this whole thing plays out. Because I do love that the whole thing with Mr. Clay, the fixer, and he's like, oh, okay, and Sherlock said, okay, so you broke into my house to talk about the fact is how much of a good father you are, but also just kind of like the conversations back and forth is kind of like, oh yeah, you destroyed the evidence. It was like, of course, because the evidence was evidence of the legal thing that I did, so it's like, okay. And it's like, actually, there was good evidence up there. It's like, you said there was nothing. It's like, yeah, it's a good thing Sherlock asked him, because if he hadn't, the dude would have just, like, that was the good tip that led to them catching Demopolis. So I also love him, Sherlock being like, so, all three, he's like, and three, I've also been recording this entire conversation. So you either get out or there will be a murder here. And he's like, it won't be mine. I'm like, whoa. Because I guess Sherlock didn't want to take the chances. Like, well, he was pissing off a businessman. So that's come across in the show too, where like Sherlock is going up against like powerful people and it's kind of come back to kind of bite him in the ass. So he didn't want to take this opportunity because this dude's a fixer. So it's a good chance he probably would have come here to hurt Sherlock or even, Watson on a possibility. So it's like, yeah, so just to make sure I have a weapon. So get the hell out of here because I might end up killing you. It won't be me that ends up dying. So that was just kind of interesting. I was almost like, whoa! Like, I was like, Sherlock having one of his badass moments. But nevertheless, Demopolis was captured. I mean, he was seen retrieving the weapon. So, case closed on that. Like I said, just kind of sad. Like, it wasn't just greed was his main motive behind everything. So, like, well, it's kind of the main reason why humans do anything, right? So, that's kind of interesting. But a side story to this I thought was kind of interesting was the fact is that Watson actually read the file. And it said that she could potentially be a good mother. And it kind of got Watson thinking about it because it's like she never really thought too much about it. Because basically what Reed was saying, her therapist was saying is basically she was taking all she was and all she had, every aspect of herself, and kind of throwing herself into her work rather than being concerned about, having, a child and stuff like that. Qualities and stuff that could be spent like, oh, this could be spent on a child. And like, because Watson had never really given it much of a thought, especially at that time because she wasn't dating one. But now it makes her feel like, well, what if I was missing out? And I like what Lynn did. Lynn having like her sister moment of being like, that doctor didn't know you. It's like, yes, she did. It's like, no, she did. All those qualities in you, those make you a good detective, a good friend, a good sister. She was only seeing what she wanted to like see, that basically trying to make Watson realize that these aspects about herself that the doctor was saying, like, oh, those should be aimed towards having a child, like those are the reason, they're part of who you are, and they make you great in these areas. Don't think like, oh, you should feel bad about the direction your life is taken. Like, if you're gonna have a child, but don't let this one lady's opinion be what motivates. I mean, to be fair, it's just kind of like that was something she was probably never meant to see. I mean, because in Joan's mind, it's like, well, therapists say things that they think you should know, but they want you to come to that conclusion on your own. So, but it was kind of this sweet thing that Lynn had said too. I thought that was kind of pretty neat. But it does seem like that whole experience has left a kind of a thought in Watson's mind of like, oh yeah, having a kid. It seems like she's potentially on her way to adopting. And I'm wondering if that's something she's going to really bring up the show. I feel like she will. I don't know if she's outright going to bring it up, but she's probably eventually going to talk about it because it's like, it's going to come up, with the work situation if she's adopting and stuff like that. So I mean, you know how Sherlock is about this whole situation, like the whole Kitty situation when she came back with a kid. It was something that Sherlock, like, she was worried Sherlock wouldn't like, but it's like, no, he accepted it easily. Like, he wants them to be happy and stuff like that. So if this is a choice Watson would want to make, he'd be happy. There was also the part of me that was wondering, like, if she was going to have a kid, like her own kid. And there was part of me wondering, like, oh, would Sherlock kind of like, okay, like, I will offer you my semen because that way your child will have like Sherlock's borderline narcissistic enough. I think he'd be like, "Oh yeah, your child will have the best intelligence, like every great aspect about you and a great aspect about me, kind of mixed together type of thing." I feel like that could be potential. But I don't know if Sherlock would think like that. I feel like I said, he's borderline narcissistic enough to kind of potentially think like that, but I don't know. I'd be interested to see like if that would be potentially a conversation that ends up coming up later on, whether she kind of go down that route or not. But it's just interesting thinking about her being a mom too. It's like I said, it was something she had never really thought about before. So maybe there was a benefit to it because it got her thinking about it. But it's that thing where it's like, I hope she's not only thinking about it now because it's like, well, because his therapist put it in her head. I mean, maybe it's kind of that thing of like, well, she was a different person now than she is then. And it's like, well, I mean, the thing is also she's juggling a lot too. She's being, a detective. Um, She's also dealing with the whole Sherlock situation too. Also really like the fact that she was like, "Yeah, when are you going to introduce me to Michael?" Like, and he's like, Sherlock's like, "You're acting like we're dating, oh, you're meeting a new person in my life." It's not like that. She's like, "Well, still, come on." It's like, probably because it's like, oh, he's a new friend in your life and everything, and it's like, oh, this is great dude, and person in your life, and it's like, well, Sherlock doesn't like he has many friends, associates. Like, he has very few, like, people you probably outright call friends, especially in his little inner circle. And the fact of the matter is that he is kind of like that. I guess, like, maybe, like, that's why Watson's even more interested to meet him, so, especially considering he gave her a case, which, like I said, I'm very interested to see what goes down between him and Watson's first meeting. Probably won't be anything spectacular. Like, it's just going to be like it's not something normal. It's not going to be like you're, like, I'm just curious to see what ends up happening. Will we see him and Joan kind of like conversating more? I mean, will that be potentially something they set up to them getting closer just so that when things kind of get down to it, he ends up like making Watson disappear? Maybe not necessarily killing her, but maybe kidnapping her or something. And it turns into that whole like race against time. I mean, that's me seeing, I feel like that's going to be like some like season finale type of thing. Maybe I'm reading too far into it. It might not even be like that. But I think that could be potentially an avenue it goes on, but we'll see. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. But I'm also very interested to see what this whole adoption situation goes. Like whether, like obviously she's putting in a lot of work, but I'm curious, like, will she go through with it? Will she second guess herself? I don't know. Be interested to see what, hell, I wonder, would she even talk to anyone else about it? Would she actually talk to, like, Bell and Gregson about it first before she even does Sherlock? I mean, I don't know. It's a possibility, so who knows? Overall, like I said, a great episode. A lot of interesting things. I'm very interested to see what the next episode has in store for us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.